Hey hotties, how you healing? How you feeling? I'm Zenzie, and this is Hotties Heal. So I decided that how I am going to lay out these conversations is by picking one of my oracle decks and asking the universe for the collective energy, and then whatever cards come out or what I will base the topic of the video on. And I can only speak from my experience, but I want to speak from the heart. And as I said in my introduction video, I'm really just aiming to create a safe space where people can hear my story and not feel so alone, or find ways to navigate what they're going through. I'm by no means an expert, but I can provide a voice to maybe some unresolved feelings that you might be having. So today we're going to talk about performance and equality. These are the two cards that came out, and I actually feel like they relate to each other really well. So the performance card says, I surrender my need to people please in order to feel accepted. I'm good enough just the way that I am. So I'm going to start with performance, performing, people pleasing, whatever you want to call it. Let me tell you, I used to be the biggest people pleaser that there ever was. I mean, if you can relate, then stick around, because I have been in a lot of situations where I personally didn't feel worthy of love or understanding or admiration, and I felt like I had to be someone or do things that I didn't necessarily feel like aligned with who I really was in order to make other people like me or feel comfortable. I'm here to tell you, yeah, you shouldn't do that anymore. If you struggle with that, it's time to stop. Choosing you is the most powerful thing that you can do. And anyone who decides they don't like you because you stopped kissing their ass is not someone that you want to have in your life anyway. I have let go of a lot of people and circumstances because I felt like they just didn't align with who I was, and there's no sweat off my back at all losing these people and things. I feel better, I feel more free, and I feel more able to just be myself without fear of making someone else uncomfortable. I acknowledge that people's uncomfortability is not my responsibility. If you're making someone else uncomfortable simply by just being you, that says more about them than it does about you. If you are being authentic and you're enjoying yourself and you're not doing anything to harm anyone, and someone doesn't like that, that just means that they need to do some self-reflecting, and they need to figure out why your existence makes them so uncomfortable. I used to bend over backwards for people who wouldn't care if I died tomorrow. I mean, okay, that might be an exaggeration, but in all reality, like, I was really going out of my way for people who, if given the opportunity, wouldn't do the same for me. And I saw that time and time again, but I was so eager and thirsty to be accepted and loved that I was willing to do anything to try to prove to these people that I was worthy of their acceptance, their love, their companionship. And in going out of my way for them, I completely lost myself. I lost my way, and when you give so much of yourself to other people, there's nothing left. And you're left feeling empty and hollow and unsatisfied and constantly chasing things that are going to give you instant satisfaction and gratification instead of actually taking time to reflect on why it is that you are so willing to do so much for other people, but can't provide that same emotional support for yourself. One of the most powerful things that you can do, and one of the best feelings that you can have, is when you decide to choose you and you decide to pour all that love, attention, and energy that you're giving other people to yourself. Take it from me, I decided to do that, and I'm not saying that it was easy by any means. It at times was really painful to walk away from situations that I felt like I couldn't live without, but I am better off for it. I feel more emotionally fulfilled than I ever have in my life after I decided to choose myself, after I decided to love myself, after I decided that I deserved more than what I was giving myself. I'll tell you this, I completely understand the whole getting addicted to the highs and lows of situations, but that satisfaction wears off very quickly, and it's almost like being a drug addict. I saw this analogy that said going back to toxic situations or getting the gratification from a toxic situation gives you a really high high, but your tolerance for happiness and satisfaction becomes so high that it's harder to reach that level. So the lows become even lower, and you're left feeling emptier and constantly needing to go back to that situation, that relationship, even that work environment, that you become lost. If you are in a situation, whether it be your work life, your friendships, your relationships that are romantic, that you feel that you are compromising more of yourself than what you're getting out of the situation, it's time to walk away and let it go. And I know that can be scary and hard because you get so used to the way that it was, but what's the worst that could happen when you walk away and choose you? Yeah, you might feel uncomfortable for a while, getting used to dealing with no longer being in that situation. But the more you focus on yourself and doing for you what you were so busy doing for others, you will feel stronger. One thing that I feel like people don't even realize is that they don't know how to be with themselves. They don't know how to do things that actually make themselves happy. If you define yourself by who you're with and the job that you do and all the things that you're doing that make you feel good because it's an outside source validating you, I'm telling you, your happiness is always going to be fleeting. In order to live a fulfilled life, you have to get comfortable with yourself. And when I say get comfortable with yourself, I mean all aspects of who you are. The good, the bad, and the ugly. None of us are perfect, but if we can accept those darker aspects of ourselves and we can learn that we are whole on our own, then we are closer to living a life of fulfillment. If you continue to give to people, places, and things that aren't equally nourishing you, you're giving your power away. And those things aren't going to suddenly see you and all that you have to offer, because you're not seeing it in yourself by continuously giving and giving and giving to situations that just take. And a giver can be depleted from giving constantly, but a taker never stops getting tired of taking. And that situation or that person will continue to take until you have nothing left. Give to yourself and see how good that you feel. The only way that you can ever find satisfaction from a situation is by being satisfied with yourself, being comfortable being you, doing the things that make you happy. We live in a society that for some reason frowns upon taking care of yourself in an authentic way and frowns upon being authentically happy and makes you think that happiness has to be work. Happiness doesn't have to be work. And if something doesn't feel right to your soul, then you don't have to do it. Fuck doing things just because that's the way it's always been done. We don't have to continuously just keep doing things because that's the way that it is and that's the way that it always has been. You're allowed to change things. You're allowed to choose you. You're allowed to walk away from things if they don't feel right to your mind, body, and spirit. Who's really telling you to stay? And if you're allowing other people and situations to hold you back from doing what you really want to do, you're honestly just doing a disservice to yourself. At the end of the day, it's you that has to live your life, not anyone else. So start doing the things that feel good to you. Let me tell you a little story about a girl, me, who walked away from financial stability because it didn't feel right for my mind, body, and spirit. I'm sure a lot of people will think that I'm crazy for it, especially because I have absolutely no plan for what I'm doing next. But I do know that the job that I was doing, it wasn't making me feel good about myself. I have always loved fashion. I love expressing myself through dressing myself. And it's always been a creative outlet for me. I went to school and got my degree in fashion marketing, and pretty much as soon as I graduated, I got a job working in film. I am in the film union, and I've worked on commercials, movies, TV shows, you name it. I still consider myself to be a stylist, but I don't consider myself to be an employee of motion pictures anymore. You know, I'm not gonna shit on the movie magic. I love watching TV and I love watching movies. It's one of the ways I really love to unwind. But working in the field of fashion in all forms just wasn't for me. And the more I tried to force myself to fit into that mold, the harder it became for me, the more uncomfortable it became for me. When you try to force things that aren't for you, the universe just makes it harder to navigate, because the universe will keep bringing situations and circumstances into your life until you decide to do something differently. This was really hard for me to come to terms with, because I, for a really long time, envisioned myself being someone who was going to rule the fashion world. But the reality of working in a beauty field is that people aren't very nice. With love and light to all the people who work in that industry, it's very fake and phony, and that's just not me. I'm someone who really wants to see other people win, and I try not to feel intimidated by the success of others. I want to support other people, and I want to have a good time. And a lot of people aren't really like that, and that was a hard lesson for me to learn. I had to learn that not everyone is my friend, and not everyone has my best interest at heart. And if showing up to this job every day, despite the money that it was putting in my pocket, wasn't making me feel good, then I needed to walk away. And when I tell you guys that I was not feeling good, like, my immune system was shot. Your body will have a physical reaction to your emotions if you choose to ignore them. I was riddled with anxiety. I was not able to fight off illness. I was constantly sick. I was even a little bit suicidal. And I've struggled with feelings of anxiety and depression for the majority of my life, but I hadn't been in that bad of a place emotionally in quite a while. And if a job is getting me to that point, no amount of money is worth my happiness and my health, both emotionally and physically. And as scary as it is to walk away from a situation that provides you with security and allowed me to travel and experience a lot of different things, it wasn't worth my mental health. And it will never be worth my mental health. I can find other ways to be financially secure, and I will. So that little story about work sort of brings me into the next card that I pulled, which said equality. If someone cannot reciprocate my same efforts, I do not continue to try harder. I take it as a sign that we may not be on the same page at this time. This definitely is something that I needed to translate both in my career and also in my personal relationships. In regards to work, because I was suffering with imposter syndrome and I just really wasn't aligning with the jobs that I was doing or the people that I was working with, I was having a really hard time, and I definitely was people pleasing to the max. I was spreading myself so thin, trying to convince these people that I was worthy of being there and that they should like me and respect me and want to be my friend. And I didn't even believe those things about myself, so why would they? In order for people to feel a certain way about you, for the most part, you have to believe those things about yourself. If you don't think that you're worth shit, no amount of fake confidence is going to convince those people that you're worth anything. You have to believe that for yourself, and you have to hold yourself to that high regard and respect yourself. And people pleasing is a sure way to lose the respect of others. If you're constantly bending over backwards for people, they're not going to respect you, they're not going to value your opinion, and they're most likely going to use you as a target for their frustration because you're so willing to do things to be liked. In regards to how I was doing this in my relationships, another more personal story. This is about a boy. I'm not a man hater. I love men. A lot of them need some help and need to do some soul searching, but overall, I don't think that all men are bad. I think there are a lot of toxic men in this world, but that's a story for a different day. Anyway, this is about one particular man, and it's definitely tied to my daddy issues, which once again is a story for a different day that I'm not going to focus on right now. But I spent a really long time giving every inch of myself to a man that didn't respect me, didn't value what I was giving him, and really just didn't care. And in doing that, I really lost myself. If you're struggling with keeping yourself in a situation, no matter that situation, because you don't feel worthy of better, then you're not going to get better. But if you decide to choose you and you walk away from a situation, whatever it may be, the universe will have your back and will support you. It might not be easy, but it becomes easier. When you choose you and you find out the things that you love and you start to appreciate and admire yourself in a way that you've given to other people, you will feel better. You will understand yourself more, and you will stop seeking the validation, understanding of others. Because you will know that your opinion and the way that you feel about yourself is enough. So figure out what it is that you want and then take purposeful action towards those things. Nothing in life really comes that easy unless you're born with a silver spoon, which some people are, but I haven't been one of those people. So I have really had to learn ways that I can support myself and how I can work towards my dreams and goals in an authentic way. Some ways that I really have learned how to appreciate, love, care for myself, and get connected to that unconditional love that I have for myself, that we all inherently have and we all deserve, is by sitting with myself and journaling and thinking about the things that make me feel grateful and spending quality time with my loved ones and listening to affirmations committing to a self-care ritual, whatever that means for you, and doing things with yourself and learning how to enjoy your own company and acknowledging those darker parts of yourself, because in order to fix them, you have to bring them to light. You have to admit and acknowledge that there are aspects of yourself that could use some work. You know, I used to be someone who had a really negative mindset, even though outwardly I was super positive, and when it came to others, I've always been very uplifting and supportive. I didn't feel like I deserved those things for myself. I really suffered with imposter syndrome, and I just had a lot of negative self-talk. But over the course of these past few months, I've really been able to pinpoint and acknowledge when I'm not being the kindest to myself and refocus and reframe my thoughts. If you're curious how I did that, it's honestly by, number one, journaling out my negative thoughts so I know that they were there. I really got real with myself about what I was being negative about. So those things were on the forefront of my mind, not in a way of me leaning into believing those things, but more so just knowing that that is the fear and anxiety talking in me. Secondly, I listen to positive affirmations, and I know people are like, oh, that's stupid. Like, honestly, I used to think it was stupid and silly too. Like, I felt really uncomfortable doing it, and I thought it was lame. But let me tell you, it takes 21 days to create a habit, good or bad. And if you listen to these affirmations, whichever ones work for you, I guarantee that you will notice that your brain is more positive. Your brain is more focused on those affirmations that you are feeding to yourself. Try it or don't, but I'm living proof that it works. So I leave you with this. If you're someone who people pleases a lot, I challenge you to start small. The next time, let it be something like you're really freaking tired and someone asks you to do something for them, and you're normally the type to just ignore your tiredness, put your shoes on, and go do whatever it is that they asked you to do. I challenge you to say no. You don't have to be rude about it, unless this is someone who isn't very kind to you, in which case you can tell them to F off. But you don't have to be rude about it if it's not someone who doesn't deserve to hear about themselves. You can simply just say, you know, I've had a really long day, I'm feeling tired, and I don't know if I can do that for you today. The people who love and support you and care about you authentically will say, cool, no worries, I understand. The people who aren't meant to be in your life and don't respect you will throw a fit. And those are the people that maybe you should consider aren't worth having in your life to begin with. Because if someone in your life is not making you feel good about yourself or is making you feel guilty for taking care of yourself, they're not someone who you should have in your life. Period, point blank. Whether you choose to keep them around is your own decision, but you should listen to your body and how they're physically making you feel, not just emotionally, but physically. Your body does tell you these things. Secondly, if you are someone like who I used to be that kept wanting to change that no to a yes, regardless of any situation, I challenge you to walk away from it. And even though it might be hard at first, give it time to breathe. And you'll see that if it's meant for you, it will find its way back into your life. And if it's not, you will keep going, you will be fine, and you will most likely find better than whatever this situation was. Because rejection is divine protection, regardless of the situation. Nothing that is meant for you will miss you. And you can't force things to be for you that aren't meant for you. In doing that, you're honestly just doing yourself a disservice, because you're staying in a situation or accepting a situation that you'd be way better off without. I guarantee that the thing that you're holding on to is only holding you back from something so much better, something so much more emotionally fulfilling. On the other side of the door that you're scared to walk through, could be the most magical thing that you've ever seen. You just have to believe that you're worth it and you're worthy of that. By choosing yourself, you are showing the universe that you are deserving of the dreams that you are actually asking for. So for those of you who related to this video and are looking for ways to try to take steps in the right direction to stop people pleasing and to stop forcing situations that aren't meant for you, I have some journal entries that you might be interested in trying. Okay, first journal entry. Your perception is your truth, and there are so many ways to look at a situation. In what ways are you looking at a certain situation that you could change to make it more positive and to support yourself more? Second journal prompt. What's meant for you will always feel freeing. What's meant for you will not feel like work. What's meant for you will feel easy. What are some situations that don't feel this way for you? And how can you change it? How can you decide to show up differently in this situation that it can make it easier on yourself? With that, I leave you and I thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hotties Heal. Thanks for watching and see you next time.